How do projects work in management consulting? Hi everyone, my name is Johannes and welcome to Mastering Consulting. On this channel I want to share my lessons learned from my own journey in management consulting to help you to become successful and living a balanced life in management consulting. If you're new to this channel, then please make sure to subscribe, leave a thumb up and hit the bell button. That will help you that you don't miss any new video that can help you to become successful in management consulting. And today we have a very important topic. We will talk about how projects in management consulting actually work. When I did my first internship in management consulting, I was quite nervous because this was the first project that I actually did, at least in a consulting context, and I didn't really know what to expect. So what I did to get some more information about how consulting projects actually work, I called a friend of mine who already worked in consulting. And he said to me, Johannes, it's very simple. There are 5 things that you have to be aware of if we talk about projects in management consulting. And he said, Johannes, we first of all have the project scope that you have to be aware about. Second, it's the project structure. Third, it's the project plan, so the timeline of the project. Then fourth, it are the important project meetings. And fifth, it's the project team. So with that in mind, I started my first internship in management consulting, and when I got staffed on the first project, I asked my teammates about those 5 criteria. They explained them to me, and that gave me a much better picture of what I should expect and really helped me to do a good performance because I knew exactly how that project worked. So let's talk about each of those 5 aspects. So aspect number 1 is the project scope. And of course, if you have a project, you usually try as a consulting team to solve a business problem for the client. And obviously, before you start with working on the project, you need to define exactly what you want to achieve and what the goal of the project is. And this is what we call the project scope. So this includes typically that you define a problem that you want to solve, that you also define an outcome, but also that you identify, okay, who is the owner of the project and who are important stakeholders. Those are all important questions that you have to ask yourself if we talk about the project scope. So a potential project scope could be that you say, okay, the problem is the company has decreasing revenues. You want to increase revenues with your consulting project. The owner is maybe the chief revenue officer, and there are several important key stakeholders, like for example, the management board. And this could be a typical scope for a consulting project. And the second aspect is the project structure. And if we talk about project structures in management consulting, then we usually have to take a look at the horizontal line and the vertical line of consulting projects. And if we talk about structures in management consulting projects, we always have to be aware that there is one consulting team, but there's also a client team. And both teams work in one project structure on the project. So if we take a look at the vertical line, so at the hierarchy of a project, there are mainly 3 levels. So if we talk about hierarchies, level number 1, and this is the top of a project, are the project sponsors. So this typically is the person who provides the resources, both the personnel but also the financial resources to do that project. And typically in a strategy project, this might be the CEO, but this could also be a COO or even a division manager in some cases. Hierarchy level number 2 is the project management. And this is typically where your project manager works in, and you have usually one project manager from the consulting team, but also on the other hand, a project manager from the client team. And those people are responsible for organizing this project, doing the main communication with all of the important stakeholders, and to make sure that the project as a whole achieves the goal that you set out and defined in the project scope. As a third level, we have the operational project teams, and those are usually the consultants, but also team members from the client's project team who are really responsible for doing the operational work on a project. So we talked about the vertical line, we also have to talk about the horizontal line. And typically in consulting projects, you structure your projects in streams, and streams at the end are nothing else but sub-projects. So typically you have one big project where you have one big goal, and to tackle the project more easily, you divide the entire project into several streams. The third aspect that you need to be aware of is a project plan for your project. And there are so many different project plans that it's very hard to generalize how they look like. But typically a project plan has usually 3 milestones. So the first one is the kickoff. And this is where the entire project team, so the consulting team, but also the client team, comes together, or at least the main decision makers of those teams come together and really define, okay, how do we structure the project? How are we gonna proceed? What are the key meetings? What are the key milestones? And how do we do it in general? And this typically takes place either before the project or within the first weeks of a project. Then you also have, at the end of each project, the final presentation. And this is where the project team summarizes all the results and really presents the solution for the problem that the consulting team wanted to solve. And also sometimes between the kickoff and the final presentation, you as a project team also have a kind of midterm presentation where you present the results that you have achieved as a team so far. Then the fourth aspect are the project meetings. And typically, if we talk about project meetings, you usually have 3 levels of project meetings. So on the highest level, you usually have steering committees or steercos. And this is where the project teams presents the result to the project sponsor. And those are typically very, very important meetings in management consulting, because there you communicate to your main stakeholders and show the results that you achieved so far. On a more operational level, and this is the second type of meeting that you usually have in consulting, are jour fixes. And this is typically a, let's say, weekly or bi-weekly meeting where usually the project management of the team comes together and discusses more operational and organizational topics that are important for the project. And the third level are the operational meetings, and this is really the daily work in management consulting, and those are really those meetings where you discuss and work on solutions with the client, with the operational team, and this happens on a daily basis. And the fifth aspect, which is very important if we talk about consulting projects, is the consulting team. And you really have to understand who in the team has what kind of role, because that helps you to do your job in the best way possible. And typically you have different hierarchies again. So at the top of each consulting project is the project partner. And this person is usually responsible for overseeing the entire project, for doing the communication to the most important stakeholders, typically the project sponsor. And the partner is usually very responsible for relationship management and also obviously for selling the projects. Then below that, you typically have the project manager, and the project manager is responsible, as the name says, for managing the project. And this typically includes all the organization, then the communication to the stakeholders, but also managing the consulting team. And below that, again, we have all the consultants and the analysts and the interns, and those are the people who really do the operational work on a project, usually, as we discussed before, organized in different streams. So do you already have some experience of working in consulting projects? Then please write it below in the comments. And if this brought value to you, then please subscribe to the channel, leave a thumb up, and also hit the bell. That will help you that you don't miss any new video that can help you to become successful in management consulting. And with that being said, I wish you a very successful day. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye. Johannes.